The Colts are either about to fall to 0-3 or get the vibes right with a win at home against the Bears on Sunday, and we're going to tell you what we think is going to happen. Let's get to it.
You are Locked On Colts, your daily Indianapolis Colts podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
All right. Thanks for tuning in and making us your first listen of the day. This is your daily podcast covering your Indianapolis Colts, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. And today's show is brought to you by our pals over at PrizePicks. Go to prizepicks.com/LockedOnNFL and use code all lowercase LockedOnNFL to win $50 instantly when you play just $5. Gotta have a deal. What's up, y'all? This is Jake Arthur and Zach Hicks of HorseshoeHuddle.com. I'm your resident media member for the site, and Zach is your resident film nerd for the site. And we are here, as we are every Friday, to preview Sunday's game. It is Colts Chicago Bears. It is a big one because it's the I-65 rivalry, just 3 hours away for everybody. While you'll love to have everybody in Lucas Oil Stadium cheering for the Colts, you got to make sure you drown out the Bears fans that you know we're going to be in there. So this will be a big one. Obviously, Colts fans are a little bit on edge. It's 0-2, looking to avoid 0-3. The Bears, likewise, they have their brand new quarterback as well. They don't want to be 1-2. 2-1 looks a whole lot better. So we'll talk about the offense, defense, and then ultimately what we think is going to happen in this one. So Zach, this is not something where we're just looking for one side to get right. There's plenty for both sides of the football for the Colts to get better. So offensively, you're really looking for some consistency, establish some sort of rhythm early. Obviously, Jonathan Taylor can get going, but you would hope to get that happening early in the game. Rhythmically with the passing game, Josh Downs is back, no longer carries an injury designation. You hope that helps smooth out some of Anthony Richardson's edges and make some of the extremes a little less extreme. Now, Michael Pittman Jr. is questionable with a back and a calf, so we'll see how that goes. If I had to guess, that's a guy who plays through a lot of stuff, so maybe he'll be back with Downs as well. But yeah, this is one. It's pretty tough because Chicago's defense is for real, especially that back seven, the pass defense. That is a team, again, they're 1-1, and they're 1-1 because of their defense. They single-handedly won the Tennessee game.
Yeah. Well, Will Levis helped them out quite a bit in that
They had to be there to capitalize on that.
That's true. That's true. But no, I think this is a big game for the Colts because we've seen through 2 weeks that they just started so slow on offense in both these games. The first halves, if you look at the two first halves, the last two games for the Colts, combined 7 points. The passing game has been very out of sync in those first halves. The running game had a little bit of juice against the Packers in the first half, but clearly did not have any juice against the Texans in that first half. So it's about starting quick for this Colts team, especially against a team where we're going to talk about in our next segment. Their offense has a lot of issues right now. And you want to get them out of running the ball and into throwing the ball a little bit more because that's probably the only area the Colts defense has some kind of advantage on anybody right now. Clearly not in the ground game. So you really got to try to get, Chicago playing like the team from behind rather than what we've seen from the Colts these past 2 weeks, where from the first play of the game, from the first couple plays of the game, the Colts been playing from behind. They have not really been in a position where they are trying to, not trying to come back in a game, essentially. And it goes on both sides of the field, offense and defense. Defense allowing teams to score too early in games, offense just getting off to really slow starts, really ineffective starts. So getting Josh Downs out here, hopefully improving that success rate for the offense would be massive. Lean on the run game against a defensive line that's not very strong. I mean, it's a fine defensive line. It's just not the strength of this defense. Lean on the run game a little bit, kind of, that's where you got to attack this Matt Eberflus defense and try to start quick for once. I mean, Anthony Richardson has played in 4 fourth quarters in his career. He's been down by 2 scores in every single one of those fourth quarters. And yes, some of that is definitely on him. It's also on the rest of the offense. It's also on the defense. Like, they got to start quick in this game. They got to get out to a lead early. And I think a lot of that comes down to having a really good opening script for this offense. Go down there, get some points, and let's get this thing rolling. But yeah, I think having Downs back is going to be big. Braden Smith and Michael Pittman Jr. both popped up on the injury report today, but they're both good to go. I think also Ryan Kelly did, but he didn't even get it wasn't like an injury thing for him. So he's good too. So this Colts offense, it's at full strength essentially right now. Like there's no excuse not to come out the gates firing here. It doesn't have to be downfield shots. It'd be awesome if it was. But get the ground game going, get some quick passes to Pittman and Downs, and let's get a touchdown out the gate and start with a lead for once in one of these games.
That is a rarity for Anthony to be playing with a lead, and I think the defense is probably something that would function a lot better with a lead as well. But offensively, I don't want to say I don't want to say make your game plan almost like a regression of what you've done with Anthony, but I think it's not too late in the season to kind of keep it a little simpler. Don't reinvent the wheel here. Get back to the basics, try to run the ball effectively. A somewhat advanced version of what Green Bay did with Malik Willis last week. Try to establish the run, move within Anthony's strengths, get him out of the pocket, or, some bootlegs, move the pocket a bit. Just do stop putting him in this box of the pocket passer role. They've talked every time someone talks about Anthony Richardson from the Colts, they talk about his special abilities and they use him, they drafted him the way they want to use him because he can obviously run and everything. But it's we just haven't really seen a lot of that. It seems like they're just trying to make something happen that's not the best fit so far. And I just think if you get back to the basics, keep it simple, establish the run, help that open up some play action across, the Chicago's defenses, they're good at eliminating big plays overall, but they are a little susceptible over the middle of the field. And, they have an aggressive defense as well. I mean, they have really good, confident defenders. If the Colts can get some deep shots going, it's not something like a consistent recipe like they did in week 1 or anything. But this is a Chicago defense that's got to think that they have the upper hand, and it's probably going to play that way. So, yeah. I mean, do some things that they're maybe not expecting the Colts to be able to do. The Colts have had those deep shots, but it was not by proxy of having the effective run game. You know what I mean? I just think there's a way they can reestablish themselves as an offense. They're kind of searching for an identity right now as well.
Yeah, I think a big thing really is leaning on that ground game a little bit in this one, which I know to all the analytics people listening, you're screaming in horror and covering your ears because nobody likes their ground game. But look, the Colts by efficiency metrics right now are averaging 6.1 yards per carry. A lot of that is because Richardson's averaging nearly 10 yards a carry right now. And then Taylor had a really big week too, where he averaged, I think, 8 yards a carry. So, those numbers are a little bit propped up from that, but they have been efficient running attack, and they've had a lot of explosive runs this year, 10 runs of over 10 yards this season for the Colts offense. So I do think leaning on the ground game a little bit will be effective for them. Lean on the threat of Richardson running the ball. That's what, created some really big runs for Jonathan Taylor against the Green Bay Packers. And then I think when it comes down to how you're going to attack this team in the passing game, again, isolate Josh Downs whenever you can against a linebacker or a safety and let him do his thing. If you do want to attack vertically, maybe against this kind of cover 2, Matt Eberflus style of defense, attack the seams, which Richardson loves to do. He's really good at it, attacking the seams, get those tight ends moving up the seams, get some high lows in those areas, and attack behind those linebackers and in front of those safeties. And then it's on the receivers to, you got to make those plays. There's going to be some tough catches over the middle with some high flying safeties, but they certainly have the players to do it. But again, I really do think the most important thing I want to see from this Colts offense is a good first half. I want to see them show the ability to stay on script on that first drive, get down there, get some points. It doesn't need to be a touchdown, but I would love it to be a touchdown. Get down there, get some points early, get your defense playing in a position of strength for once instead of being on their back heels, and then just keep building off the momentum. If your defense gives you a turnover or something, then make sure you capitalize on that, which they have on the one turnover they've gotten this year. But, just stuff like that, capitalizing on their opportunities, getting off to a fast start and making the Bears be the team that has to throw it in the second half, not Richardson having to throw 25 pass attempts in the fourth quarter again. We don't need that every single week. So let's get off to a fast start. Let's give Richardson in this offense a lead for once going into the second half or going into the fourth quarter, and give him those reps of being in control of a game rather than just having to be Superman in the fourth quarter like he's always had to be.
Yeah, there's just, luckily, I think this is a good opponent for them to, again, it's a very good Chicago defense, but when you mesh together the entire team and how the defense and offense affect each other, because we've seen that be a huge problem all year, like short fields, low time of possession, like it's been a problem. But I think that's really going to help, because this is exactly what they need at the right time. And we're going to talk about that from the defensive perspective as well here in a moment. You have heard us talk a lot about FanDuel recently, America's #1 sports book. Well, we got something a little different for you. Now through September 22nd, that's this weekend, guys. All FanDuel customers can bet $5 and get a 3-week free trial of NFL Sunday Ticket from YouTube and YouTube TV. Then with a YouTube TV base plan, you'll be able to watch every regular season Sunday afternoon out-of-market game. All you need is a Google account and a current form of payment. Plus, you can cancel anytime. The Colts are 1.5-point favorites in this one, which essentially just makes it a toss-up. The over-under on points is 43.5, which how these offenses have looked at times seems a little rich. Plus, the Colts are 4-6 at Lucas Oil Stadium since last year. So do with that information do with that what you will. It's your money. It's your life. But yeah, just visit FanDuel.com to download America's #1 sports book and make your picks. All right, Zach. So overall, I mean, the defense isn't quite as healthy as the offense is, obviously, with Juju Brents and DeForest Buckner going out. But among the active roster, it's about the same. So Latu, he's got a hip injury. He's questionable. He was able to get back onto the practice field Friday. Julian Blackmon is back, which that's underrated. I think his presence is 100% critical for that defense's survival at all times, I think. So Blackmon being back is big. So there's some big questions, obviously. Something we've tackled quite a bit throughout the week is, so DeForest Buckner is obviously out. That's no mystery. He's out for a minimum of 4 games. Who's in? Obviously, it'll probably be some sort of team effort. What we think they're going to do is probably some mix of Taven Bryan and Adetomic. But they could put Dio in there, which would be sick. Tyquan Lewis has played inside as well. What are they going to do there? And another one we haven't really talked about much, and I've actually been wanting to get your opinion on this one. So obviously Juju Brents is not coming back this year, but Dallas Flowers or Samuel Womack, we've seen a little bit of both. What's the vibe? What's your preference so far?
Well, one thing I will say is we don't really have any pass reps for either guy right now because the Packers didn't have to throw the ball. It was like the highest run percentage rate that we've seen from a team since the 90s or whatever. So it's hard to really give a feel on that. For me personally, I'd probably lean Womack just because he looks more fluid out there, looks like a better athlete right now. Flowers it doesn't look like he's got that step anymore. I think there was a big third down completion that Malik Willis had last week against him where, it was it was like a 3rd and 10. And it was just a deep out route and he was nowhere near the receiver. And it's just stuff like that. Like that ability to cut on a dime and break out of his drops. I just don't think is there for Flowers right now. So for me, I'd probably start Womack and play him for a majority of the game. And then we'll see what happens there. But slim pickings right now. Slim pickings with outside corner. And we'll see if it actually matters this week because it didn't matter whatsoever last week. But we'll see if it actually comes into play this week.
Yeah. And as speaking of health, the Bears, their offense isn't doing super hot. So Keenan Allen has already been ruled out with a heel injury. Guard Nate Davis, he's questionable with a groin, but has been awful when he's been on the field. Just today, I read some there. It's again, they've played 2 games and Bears writers are already writing their please God get something else going on with Nate Davis's spot articles. So even when he was with the Titans, that was kind of the vibe as well. So
who's their next man up again, Jake? Who's
Matt
the guy they want
Pryor, baby.
Matt Pryor. Oh my
gosh. Matt Pryor,
Matt
when he's
Pryor.
not playing right tackle, is a pretty big problem. So The Bears' offensive line has been bad, really
Matt
bad.
Pryor versus Taven Bryan.
Yeah,
That's
they're
the ultimate stoppable force versus movable object.
Yeah, like if the Colts are gonna be without Buck and they need to have a game where like Taven plays a lot, like this might be. That's the problem. Taven's gonna have 1.5 sacks and like 3 TFLs in this one, and Ballard's gonna be like, "See, I told you." And then they're gonna face a good offensive line, and it's gonna go how it has all 15 other times. But no, I mean Chicago, their front, it's rough. They are 28th in rushing. And I've now talked to 2 different Bears podcasts this week. They all echo the same thing. They can't run it to save their life, and they can't protect Caleb Williams to save their life as well. The numbers back that up. Again, 28th in rushing. I think it's like 77 yards per game. They're tied for the most sacks allowed per game. The only reason they're not first is because New England has played an extra game because they played on Thursday. So it's run blocking and pass blocking. It's rough. And it's like, thank God this is the line that the Colts banged up defensive line gets this week because, again, Latu is questionable. Kwity Paye is not on the injury report this week, but I did not think he looked like himself last week. Like, you could tell he had been banged up all week.
Yeah, we'll see if the Colts can even face a passing game, though, whatsoever. Because, again, like, I think when you allow, what was it, been 450 yards rushing in 2 weeks? Like, I don't think you get any benefit of the doubt whatsoever. You could be going against me on the other offensive line, and I even think in the back of your mind for like a second, you'd be like, I don't know, can they get by that 200-pound dude that looks like he can't fit in his shoulder pads? Like, like what can they even get around him? Because it's been that bad. I mean, again, we knew the Packers were only going to run the ball last week. And it doesn't matter if you have the 5 greatest offensive linemen in the history of football out there. If you know that a team is going to run the ball at a 70+% clip, they should not be able to run for 200+ yards in one half. Like, so it's like
that still blows me away. Like,
yeah. Oh. You could tell me Matt Pryor starting. You could tell me there's 5 Matt Pryor starting, and I would still be concerned for this run defense because it's been that awful through 2 weeks. So, yeah, I mean, the Colts defense has not given us any reason to hope or believe in them whatsoever. Even their pass defense, like I know raw totals wise have not given up a ton of yards, but like yards per attempt and passer rating and all that have been great for opposing quarterbacks through 2 weeks. And that includes a Malik Willis game in there. Like, it's hard to have much faith in this defense right now. Luckily, they are going against an offense that has mightily struggled. Caleb Williams is going through his rookie lumps as the second youngest starting quarterback in football right now. Young quarterbacks struggle. It's just what happens. Unless you're CJ Stroud, young quarterbacks struggle in the NFL. And Caleb Williams is seeing, his part of that right now. The offensive line is really bad. And luckily, yes, the Colts are down Samson Ebukam. They're down DeForest Buckner, might be down Leatu Latu, but because the depth on this defensive line in terms of pass rushers, they still have Kwity Paye, they still have Tyquan Lewis, they still have Dayo Adangbo. Like, that's still a solid group of guys who should be able to take advantage of a poor offensive line. So, yes, if the Colts can get them into passing situations, hopefully this defensive line can get after it and get to Caleb Williams and do what these, do what the Titans and the Texans were able to do the first 2 weeks. But again, there's no real reason to hope with this defense right now. Like, there's nothing to really hang your hat on and be like, I feel like it can turn around. Like, when it comes to the Colts offense, at least in the fourth quarter, they looked competent last week. And in week 1, they were so explosive. So you can say with the Colts offense, they'll figure it out. And they have Shane Steichen at the helm. Like, they'll figure it out. With defense, you have an archaic defensive system, a defensive coordinator that nobody believes in, a bunch of players that are underperforming, and then your best 2 pass rushers are out for the year. Your top corner is out for the year, or Buckner's not out for the year, but you know what I mean. Their best 2 pass rushers are out. Their best corner is out for the year. Like, it's hard to really hang your hat on much on this defense. I hope they prove me wrong. I hope they come out and do what the Titans and Texans were able to do against this Bears team, but I just don't really have much hope at all for this defense. I guess one good thing, I guess, about it is Gus Bradley's defense typically gets ripped apart by the Shanahan disciples, and Slowick and LaFleur, the 2 offensive coordinators they faced to start the year, have been, they are Shanahan disciples.
Yeah.
And Shane Waldron, I think, obviously overlapped with McVay for a little bit, but he's kind of gone on his own branch a little bit. So he kind of gone away from that style of offense. So we'll see if that changes things up. But this defense, man, like, again, you could tell me they're going against my high school football team, and I'd be like, I don't know if they could stop them. Like, again, like it's so inexcusable to allow 450 yards through 2 weeks when one team didn't even start a quarterback, basically. So it's like, what, you can't really tell me anything to be excited about with this defense right now until they actually show me something.
No, they're very much a prove it type of situation because it's been so bad. That's the thing. And they have guys on the roster who we've seen have success, but they still, again, the product has been so bad that they have to prove once again that they can do it. But coming up here in a moment, we're going to talk about how is this game actually going to turn out and what are a couple more big key points. Let's hear from our friends over at PrizePicks. So, 1 Caleb Williams passing yard gets you a win on PrizePicks every week in September. That's right, only 1 yard gets you an automatic win every football weekend in September. That's 4 weeks of free dubs. Don't miss the deal on PrizePicks because it's gone when September ends. You can now win up to 100 times your money on PrizePicks with as little as 4 correct picks. PrizePicks is the best way to get action on sports in most states, which includes California, Texas, and Georgia. PrizePicks is also the only real money daily fantasy platform with an injury insurance policy so that your lineups actually stay in play even if one of your players gets injured. That means if your player leaves in the first half and doesn't return, then your picks are still live. PrizePicks put their members first as well, so all withdrawals are fast, safe, and secure. When my picks hit, I can get my money in as quick as 15 minutes. PrizePicks invented the flex play as well, which means that you can still cash out if your lineup isn't perfect. You can double your money even if one of your picks doesn't hit. So download the PrizePicks app today and use code LOCKEDONNFL and get $50 instantly when you play 5. That's code LOCKEDONNFL on PrizePicks to get $50 instantly when you play just $5. You don't even need to win to receive the $50 bonus either because it's guaranteed. PrizePicks, run your game. Zach, I got one before we dive into final thoughts here and what we think is going to happen. I have a continuation of the defense. So, in this matchup specifically, because the Colts have kind of given an indication they're willing to be fluid with this situation at safety. Would you play Julian Blackmon free in this one with Nick Cross at strong? I feel like you're risking a little less in this type of a matchup.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, I think before the season I would have considered that. I kind of just like the fit better there anyway. But
yeah,
honestly, I would like them just to do more kind of shell stuff anyway with those two and have them be more, interchangeable a lot. Like you can drop them both back. You could mix up which one you're dropping into the box. Like, I think I would more like to have like an interchangeable system with those two guys because there's no real limitations with either one in terms of coverage versus run defense. So yeah, I mean, for labeling purposes, sure. Like with the way that Cross is tackled.
Well, who
so
you would rather
year,
be in the back end most often?
Yeah, I mean, with the way that Cross is tackled so far this year, have him around the box because he feels more willing than these linebackers right now to fit the run. So, yeah, get Cross around the line of scrimmage. Maybe we can actually get some run stops within 10 yards from him, and we'll do some good things there. So, yeah, I mean, get Cross around the box. He's the only one willing to tackle right now. So,
yeah,
I'm all for it.
I'm thinking if the D-line can put some pressure on Williams, rattle him a little bit, because it's something we've seen that can happen even in his college days. Like you rattle him a little bit, cause him to throw some errant throws. Julian Blackmon is, him and Kenny Moore, 1A, 1B, that's your biggest playmakers and turnover machines on defense. Yeah. So I think for focus of creating more opportunities for the offense, I think that, to me, I would probably play Blackmon a bit more in the back half. I'm in this one. So all that to say this. So final thoughts. I often still get a little weary, and I still am when the Colts face a bit of a weaker opponent like this. But Chicago's offense, like in all areas, has been pretty poor. Again, 28th rushing, 32nd passing, 18th in scoring. And one of the touchdowns that they've scored, at least one of them was defensive. So, like, that win they had and those points they scored in that, they needed the defense to do that. And they're 27th on third down, which is even bigger to me because it's like they cannot keep drives going. So I think the Colts defense gets a little bit of a break here. They do still have some talented, capable players out there. They're going to have to gel and figure things out throughout the season because some of these guys are going to be out long term. Obviously, Brent's all year, Buckner until dang near midseason, it seems. I have a little bit of faith that some of their defensive players can rattle an offense that's been so ineffective like this. At least with Green Bay, Malik Willis, it's like they got to throw out a mystery box at the Colts defense, and they attacked them in a way they didn't really anticipate. They knew they were going to run it, but the way they did it was probably a little unexpected. So offensively, I'm always going to have faith that any week could be the week they open up because we know that's coming at some point. Their offense is not going to be like this all season. Like at some point, it's going to be pretty good. This is probably the best defense they've faced, you could say. One of them, comparable to Houston at minimum.
Yeah, I would say comparable to Houston. Very different styles, but yeah.
But yeah, in terms of talent and effectiveness, and the secondary is pretty good too. I still think there's some things that guys like Anthony Richardson and Jonathan Taylor can do that are uncommon. And I love that Josh Downs is back as well. So with that, I think it's still going to be a close game. And I do think Chicago's offense is probably going to have its best game of the year, but I'm still going to put it at 20-16 Colts.
Okay. Yeah. I said last week during my prediction if the Colts somehow lost to Malik Willis, that would lose my early season optimism and start picking against them out of spite. So I am picking against them in this one. I'm going to go 22-19 in favor of the Bears because I think this just has the making of an ugly game. I think you got two young quarterbacks who are still figuring things out. They're not fully where they need to be or where they're going to be. I think both are going to be very good long term, but we're at the age 22 season for both these guys. It's not going to be a pretty product. And ultimately, I think the decisive factor is this Bears defense is really good. They're really good at sitting back and taking away anything that you want to force past 7, 8, 9, 10 yards. And that's where Richardson likes to get a lot of his production, is pushing the ball down the field a little bit. He's going to be forced into some mistakes. I fully expect them because of it's a good, talented ball hawking defense that the Bears have. So I'm going to see a couple mistakes from him. And ultimately, I just don't think the Colts have any playmakers really on their defense to make mistakes. Through 2 games, they have 0 turnovers forced. The only turnover the Colts have forced has been a blocked punt. And that was happening in week 1. And really, there hasn't been that many opportunities for they had a fumble force last week on the 1-yard line going in. Sorry, they did have a forced fumble last week. So one turnover force from this defense. Haven't really got their hands on many balls. I think like 3 pass deflections in 2 weeks, 2 pass deflections in 2 weeks. I don't really see them really getting after the quarterback too much because teams don't have to throw against the Colts. So ultimately, this defense for the Colts just does not give me the inspiration that the Bears defense does. Now, I will say this because this is a Colts show. I'm not going to sit here and just praise the Bears. So if the Colts want to win this game, they got to start quick, feed Jonathan Taylor, feed Anthony Richardson the short game and the run game, get down there, get a touchdown to start this game, whether it's on your first drive or the Bears have a drive and then you get a drive out there, and get the Bears reeling early and get them going into desperation mode in that first half. If you get them having to throw the ball in the first half, you have a really good, game flow that you can win. But if it becomes like a Packers game where they're up 2 scores in the first quarter and they don't have to throw the ball anymore, then we're going to see what we saw against the Packers. So for the Colts, it's really getting out to a quick start, getting it to where you don't have to force the ball down the field. Like you can just get into these winnable, ugly situations, so to speak. I mean, look at what the Steelers have done the last 2 weeks to go 2-0. It's been a lot of field goals, a lot of getting to, which you guys know makes me shiver to my core. I hate hearing the word field goal, but just getting positive success rate, good success rate drives where you're getting to the opponent's side of the field, getting into a position to take the points, and making a bad offense on the other side figure things out in a game against you. I think that's the key to winning. The key to winning this game is kind of winning ugly, running the ball, keeping it short, and getting into prime real estate areas to get points. Then you have to make the Bears do the same thing. Even though your defense is atrocious, they still have to do it. And they haven't done it in 2 weeks, so far this year. So I think that's a way that the Colts can win this game. I don't ultimately think it happens because I love Richardson to death, but this psycho is going to push the ball down the field. He's got the highest ADOT in football right now, throwing the ball like 12 yards an attempt right now, or 14 yards an attempt. So I do think
ADOT's like 14. Next closest was 11.5 or 11.9.
Yeah, he loves to push it, and an Eberflus defense is really not the team that you want to push it vertically against. So we'll see which, look, he's Anthony Richardson, so he could break this defense wide open and push the ball down the field. But we'll see. It's exactly what Eberflus wants you to do. He wants you to try to push it downfield because that's the only thing he covers with his defense. So we'll see exactly what happens here with Richardson. But yeah, I think this is a winnable game for the Colts. But again, everything goes out the window when you lose to a team that had a 73% run rate the week before. So for now, I'm going to pick against them. If this works and the Colts win, I'll pick against them every week, because we're just trying to find ways to help the Colts here on this podcast. So I got Bears 22-19. But
so close.
Jake, I understand your take as well. I think this is like a team in a similar tier, like two teams in a similar tier right now, and hopefully the Colts can be the one that take advantage.
Yeah, like at least with like we knew Houston was better, probably. Like we knew the Colts would be competitive with them, but Green Bay, outside of the quarterback situation, that's another deep NFC contender. This is another team from that tier, so I like that. And to Gardaki's playground, saying it's going to be high scoring. That's what I thought last week. I think I said on this show, the Colts Packers was giving me Colts Browns 2023 vibes, and that's just not how it went. So before I get back on that horse, I gotta see him do it first. But I'm with you. I want it to be that way. I thought last week would be that way, and it super wasn't. So we'll see.
I would happily take a shootout because, look, this defense right now for the Colts is dead to me. They could allow 700 yards a game, and I don't care. As long as Richardson's looking good on the other side, I'm cool. Like, this defense is dead to me right now.
Run 4 verts, baby.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Well,
you got at least 2 of those guys that can do it.
Look, down 2 scores in the fourth, they will, but we'll see if they can do it in the first 3 quarters there. But we do want to thank you guys for making Locked On Colts your first listen today. Now for your second listen, go find the new Locked On NFL with 2 shows every single day. First, the Madman Tyler Rowland kicks off your morning with a double shot of NFL espresso, and then stop by the barbershop with Tony Wiggins for some real NFL talk. Find Locked On NFL on YouTube or wherever you listen to your podcast. If you guys want to become a Locked On Colts insider and chat with us directly, and get that inside scoop, follow the link in our show notes. And if you guys don't already, make sure you're following at Locked On Colts, at Jake Arthur NFL, and at Zach Hicks 2, all on Twitter. We're also on TikTok and Instagram, so see Jake do some TikTok dances over there. Really fun time. Also, subscribe to us on YouTube or wherever you listen to your podcasts. We love your guys' ratings, reviews, and we'll catch you guys back here Sunday afternoon after the game.